go ahead and get started. Okay, so I can see we have someone from New Brunswick in Canada, and then Denise is
Yay.
on, Sydney is on. Okay, great. So it's working fine. So what we're going to do today, everybody, is we're going to talk specifically about choreography. And Sally is wonderful. I've been chatting with her for a few minutes, and I'm going to let her tell you her story, a little bit about her. She's great and lots of fun. And you guys just think while we're talking, you can post questions, you can chit chat in the comments, and I will see them. So, whatever you guys want to ask, go ahead and we will help you out. But go ahead, Sally, you let everyone know where you're
Hi,
from.
everybody. Yep. I'm Sally O'Dwyer. I am from Boulder, Colorado, and I am super passionate about freestyles. And I guess my major message to y'all is if I can do it, you can do it. And I got started in freestyles I wrote a freestyle, and it was the best ride of my life. The music totally inspired me. When my music came on, the confidence came, and I had the best ride. So I started making freestyles for all my friends. So all my friends have freestyles now. And then I started my own business, and I create freestyles for a living now. Well, not for a living, but for fun. And I just encourage everyone to consider writing a freestyle. And it always makes me sad when the freestyle classes are kind of small because they're the funnest.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk with Sandra about it. I could start by telling you that we're going to talk about just choreography right now, but creating choreography will make you a better writer.
Mhm.
Um, you will learn how to use the arena. You will learn how to write your geometry super well, because that's really critical in writing a freestyle. You will have the benefit of doing something creative with your horse, and you will also sort of learn to use your dance floor, the dressage arena, um, in a different way. Like you will be able to see better all of your lines, your circles, those kinds of things. The other thing is you start looking at dressage differently, meaning that instead of seeing your ride movement from movement, your isolated movement to isolated movement, you start thinking about flow, because
Yeah.
that's really what choreography does, right? And it really changes the way you see our sport.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good point because the dressage tests, some of them, when you ride them, you're like pre St. George, for example, I'm always like, that has such a nice flow. And then like
yeah,
usually like fourth level test two or three, you're like, this is doesn't have a good flow, like as far
right. And so
as
and then you start riding. Okay, I'm going to do my shoulder in, and I'm going to flow beautifully to the
choreography.
half pass or whatever. So it really is worth it. Um, to think about, and I think choreography is particularly daunting, but it doesn't have to be. There's
Yeah.
really only two major pieces to it. That is your technical movements, right, Sandra? So
Yeah.
under technical, you have your permitted movements, allowed movements, and the no-no movements.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you're not allowed to do, right?
Yeah.
So you've got those movements that you have to do, and then you have your connecting elements that move you around the arena. So that could be a diagonal, it could be a short diagonal. Those are so fun, and the
Yeah.
judges love those.
Yeah.
It could be circles, serpentines, teardrops. It could be any geometric pattern, um, lines, tracks, your transitions. And
Mhm.
so all you have to really do is take your technical movements and tie them together with your connecting element. So if you think of it that way, it's not as scary, I think.
Right. Right.
Um, and why you should create a free, why should people create their own choreography is because they know their horse best. So
Hmm.
the rider always knows. And so one of the things about choreography that's really important is to show what your horse is really good at and kind of minimize the weaknesses.
Hmm.
Um, if you're the rider, you know, oh, my horse really doesn't like whatever, or the good side is the left or the right. So,
Hmm. Right.
um, yeah. Do we
Yeah.
have any questions yet?
No, but your BFF Jenna Ward said hi. and
Yeah, she
and
is my
Dan
BFF. I
Tracy is
created
here.
a freestyle for her.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah, we've got quite a few
um,
people here commenting. No questions, but comments. A lot of people are
okay.
saying hi, so we're good.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Um, so let's talk about some choreography tips.
Yes.
So the first thing would be to showcase strengths.
Hmm.
So like the first of all, you don't start getting judged until the first halt. However, your entrance is really important. And you can't really, I mean, in choreography, you can come in from either side. You can decide where you want to halt. Um, and lately, the judges have been saying they really don't like it when you come in, you halt, then you turn left or right and circle away from the judge, back around and come forward.
Right.
So to think about that, to halt, and then what can we do? You
Mhm.
could start a movement, you could do a short diagonal, but don't go back around on yourself. Apparently,
Right.
that's a no-no.
Yeah, I interviewed Charlotte Trenelman for as a judge from her
Yeah,
perspective. She mentioned that. And I use that only sparingly if you need like the higher levels, sometimes it's hard to fit in something at the beginning.
yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
love to go like even the lower levels, like first level trot and then canter and then go right into a 15-meter circle on the short side, like something where it's like, boom, let's get going, or
right.
you can go
Or
all the way down the center line and halt right in front of the judge, and then you've got your diagonal right away, so you can kind of fun things like that.
I think it's really great to maybe, halt at D, which is right after you come in, then go between the letters to the rail and then come across in an extension,
Yeah.
because then people go, oh, look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah.
Hmm.
So let's see. You want to emphasize, so the test has movements, and just like in a regular test, you have coefficients. So if it's a coefficient of 2, you probably want to highlight that because you get more, you know, dings and stars for doing those.
Right. Right.
Um, so one thing that I did have the honor of sharing an article that I wrote with Dolly Hannon, who was the former chairman for USDF on freestyle. She's on the judging committee and the test design committee, and she's an S judge. And she said, repetition's okay, but don't,
Yeah.
because it's the judges have to judge every repetition.
Mhm.
So you want to be nice to your judge, not
Yeah.
too many repetitions. And she said, especially at the walk.
Right. Right.
Okay.
So
And then
you're
just to
so
think,
just clarifying what you mean, like say the walk, like you have your minimum 20 meters, like at your
yeah,
free walk, you're saying don't ride two free walks, right? That's what you're saying.
right.
Like two.
But one, exactly. But one of the biggest errors that I see is people not riding enough length. So for the walk, you have to do 20 meters of a regular walk, what depending on the level, what you're going to call it, medium walk, and
Correct.
then another 20 meters of either a free walk or a lengthened walk. And a
Mhm.
lot of people, that's a lot of walk.
Yeah.
But if you don't do enough, you're going to get penalized for that. And you don't at the walk, shoot, you want all your points for that.
Yeah.
Also, it says on the test, like for on third level, it says shoulder in right, 12 meters.
Mhm.
And do at least 12, but how about 18? How about more to show your confidence and also to get a flow? Like 12 meters isn't that long. So you
Right.
might want to go longer to show that you know what you're doing, you're confident, and you're going for it. So
Right. Yeah.
go longer, not shorter. Um, let's see. Another thing is just thinking about your horse. A lot of people don't know, like, well, should I do the canter work first or the trot tour first? What should I do? Well, it kind of depends on your horse. Like, if you've got a horse that's got a lot of energy, but, isn't phased by the arena, maybe do your canter work first.
Yeah.
But if your horse tires easily, maybe do your canter work first. However, if you have a horse that needs some time to look around, maybe you go in at the trot, right? Give them a chance to kind of get their bearings before you put a canter on there.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah. And then also balance and flow is really important. And I really didn't know this before I started designing choreography myself, is to use complementary movements together and to make sure that you use a balanced pattern. So, for example, if you're going to do a half pass left, and something else, you may want to come back and do that same pattern in the other direction. That way it's predictable. It
Mhm.
looks like a show. It doesn't look chaotic. People can follow what you're doing. Oh, look at that. She did that. Okay, now here she comes again. Oh, very nice. But if you kind of go down, let's say you're doing a shoulder in and then you turn and then you do a little, well, you wouldn't do a leg yield, but you do another movement, you kind of lose people. So
Yeah.
just like your music, you want them to know your music and you want it to flow. Um, so you
So
could, mhm.
I have a question from one of the from let's see, I think it let me from Denise. Because you're talking about music, I just want to jump in there. You can either answer the question now or we can talk about this a little separately. Is she was asking if we pick the music first or choreography first. And that's like I always talk about that. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
versus, right? It's like kind of one or the other. So why don't you answer? I usually have my own thing I answer on that, but you can go ahead and like talk about how what you like to do, your process when you do a custom
yeah.
freestyle or one for yourself would be great.
I always pick the music first
Mhm.
because then it's in my mind. And then once I have that sort of nailed down, then I start thinking about the choreography. And then as I'm thinking about the choreography, how would the music fit? For
Yeah.
example, for your lengthening or extension, where you create drama and emotion, um, you would say, okay, I'm going to use that music that I thought of for that piece. So it's just sort of a mental thing
Yeah.
for me, that I like to have that thought process going.
Yeah, for sure. I think for some people who really are having a struggling with the music, I say like, go ahead and play around with choreography and try to create your ideal test, your ideal movements. What would be
Yeah,
perfect for your horse? And then you can take bits and pieces and adjust. But the best thing to do is if you know your music is to follow, especially for people creating it themselves, because as we know, the music editing is really can be tricky. And if you're
yeah,
cutting and splicing and dinging it in, it's not going to
yeah,
sound that good. So if you have a song
right.
that has a natural flow to it and you can actually match the choreography without editing a whole lot, it's going to sound so much better. Or
Yeah.
there's just like a little crossover here and there. But yeah, I teach a little kind of method with this like timing your movements, like having you ride on your video all of your required movements and then you time them, like my 10-meter circle takes this many seconds or this many strides. You can do it with your strides too. And then when you listen to the music, if the music matches your beats per minute, you actually can count, ooh, I could fit a
Right,
10-meter circle and then my leg yield. It's a little
right.
technical and I don't always do that myself, but some people
Yeah,
very, some people like that and you map it out a little bit. And so I always like mention that for people who are a little more less artsy.
Well, and also you have that you have the freestyle freebie download
Right. Yeah. And
that you offer on your website. And that's really helpful where you can write in the times of
yeah,
each movement, right?
right.
And that does help when you get to the editing part or just thinking about your music. If you could also time a phrase in your music
Mhm.
and then see where you could put it. Um,
Right. Like for example, if you have a beautiful piece of music that's 10 or 15 seconds long, and then your diagonal, your extended trot
yeah,
is that same amount of
exactly.
time, then you know you're going to use a full diagonal. But let's say it's shorter, then you could use a short diagonal or to the center line and make it,
Right.
your mind when you're laying out your choreography, you're going to be a lot closer on that. But yeah, it's kind of fun when you have the
It
music,
is really fun.
you
Yeah,
lay it
for
out
sure.
and then you're like, okay, where do I go from here? And I do it a lot on foot too, like, okay, where could I go? And making it unique and interesting and connecting your best movements together. But yeah, I love that.
For sure.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
good question. A lot of people are always asking that. And I think it's
Yeah,
it's a little bit of both, it's a process.
it is a process for sure. And then when you are looking at the arena, you want to make sure that you're using the whole arena. Like you don't want to cluster in a corner where you're doing all this these movements. You want to make sure that you flow through. It's going to look way more polished, organized. And then so you want to have those
Yeah,
elements that we
it's
talked
kind
about.
of
That's going to
fun when you have, sorry,
It's really fun.
you
Yeah.
lay it out
Yeah,
and then you're
sorry,
like,
hold
hold
on.
on a second,
And it's
there we go.
okay.
I'm just getting
Um,
back from I'm trying to get back to okay, I got it. I'm good now.
so you want to have the elements take you different. You want to be moving around the arena and try short diagonals. Those are great. And those are like from H to B or R to V. Long diagonals are fun doing it like from like M to A. How about that? Where you go right towards the judge and then you turn. And if you're in the canter, you don't have to change your
Right.
lead.
I do those a
Um,
lot.
but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
they increase the level of difficulty. So you could go from K to C and
Mhm.
then turn and go on your merry way and you didn't have to do a flying change. So
Right.
it's pretty, it's nice, it's bold.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come down from K and then you stop. Is it G right in front of C?
Yes.
Just
Mhm.
from 5 meters. Then you come back and then you do your turn.
Mhm.
So that's really fun. It is important, which I never considered this really, but it's really important to use the letters. So you
Yeah.
don't have to ride to the letter, you don't have to do a movement at the letter, but you really want to consider your letters because I'm not sure how you could ride it if you didn't. For example, like the more that you ride to a letter, the better the judge knows what the heck you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, and also you can look up and of course, use the corner line, use the center line. Did I say quarter line? I meant quarter line.
Yeah.
Use the quarter line, but there's still a letter next to it, right?
Right.
And that'll help you navigate the arena better if you put those in your choreography. So you don't just think, I'm going to do this halfway up the arena. You think, I'm going all the way to B. And
Hmm.
you will look more polished, and the judge will know what you're doing. Um, and also, you can't know if you're going far enough.
Hmm.
Like, are you really walking 20 meters? Or
Right.
so
Yeah.
that's really important.
And then if you're
And
running
then
ahead or behind, you know for sure. You're like, ooh, my transition was a couple strides before the letter. I'm a little behind. And then you think ahead the next few movements, how am I going to get back on time? And so that's where
Exactly.
it doesn't matter if you don't do your circle or transition at the letter because you think you're supposed to. You want to match your music and then make
Exactly.
adjustments as you're going. Yeah.
So in a regular dressage test, yes, you need to do it at the letter. In a freestyle, you do not need to go to the letter. However, it needs to be in your head so you know where you are. Like,
Yeah.
are you really doing a 20-meter circle?
Mhm.
Hopefully. But if
Yeah.
you have the letters, you are.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see.
I have
10
another
meter circles.
I have another question from Marcia, my good friend Marcia that I just interviewed last week, and she wanted your thoughts on words and songs or are instrumental only. Like in your experience as a freestyle designer, what have you been doing with that? Like when people want to use instrument.
Well, that's a great question because I think it's great to do both.
Yeah.
So I love having the original song, and then I do my best to find an instrumental or a remix. I've had not I have not found good software yet that can really rip the vocals off. When you
Yeah.
take it off, it just doesn't sound good. But maybe you can find an interlude in even in a vocal.
Mhm.
um, the idea is we want the judge to watch us dance, not sing with us.
Mhm.
But I think it's really important right away for whoever's watching you, hopefully the judge, to know what your song is. Because in your mind, when you play a song, the first thing you do is, oh, what's that song?
Yeah.
And so in my intros, I always use vocals. So
Mhm.
we know what the song is. Okay, I know what's happening here. What's the story? Oh, it's whatever. And
Yeah.
then I mix them and I use vocals almost always on my lengthenings or extensions because it's
Got it.
more.
Yeah.
Let's show it, right?
Mhm.
Um, so that's what I personally like to do. Um, the other thing I was going to say about back to choreography is that I don't know if everybody knows what a joker line is, or some people call it the insurance line.
Yeah.
Um,
Go
and
ahead
I
and
would say,
explain it for people who don't know. I'd
okay,
love it.
well,
Yeah.
I always throw in at third level or above an extra lengthening. And then if my changes don't go well the first time, I got a second chance at it. So yeah, so that's all called a joker line or an insurance line. And so, at the canner, put in an extra lengthening, you'll look beautiful anyway. If you get it good the first time, then stay with it. Remember, every time you are judged, it doesn't necessarily help to do more because it can raise or lower. So if you like say with a flying change, you get your flying change. I wouldn't personally go nuts with the flying changes because each one of those is judged, and more can show difficulty, a level of difficulty, right? But
More
um
risk that you don't
yeah,
do it
more risk.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Um and then the other thing is when we're thinking about a balanced arena and it makes it easier for the choreographer is to think about mirrored patterns. We talked about balance, like do it once to the left, do it once to the right. Um, I think it looks pretty and people can, just like music, people can follow what you're doing. The other thing I would say is don't be boring. Like, don't just go down the length of the arena. And I try to use quarter lines as much as possible because it's more interesting. It's a different degree of difficulty, and you're dancing, so you don't have to be on the rail. But what I would suggest is think about incorporating two of your movements in one line. Like we talked, you could do shoulder in one direction and then go next up to the center of the arena, and then switch your direction of your shoulder in. I think that's really pretty, and
Yeah.
it's not boring.
Right. Right.
Um, let's see. We talked about the walk. I think that's like where people miss the boat.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other thing that Dolly cautions me on, which is so true, is don't get crazy creative. That is not what the judges want to see.
Mhm.
They don't want to see you getting all crazy.
Right. Because
The
it's hard to
best
follow.
choreography,
Yeah.
what?
It's hard to follow and judge like
It's
the
hard to
portion.
follow. They don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. Hmm.
Let's see, what's this? There's a question. Oh, let's see. When a horse has a stronger gait, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yep. This is Carol's on the Zoom call with us, and she said
Uh-huh.
example, like a trot lengthening, should you do it in the beginning if you have a stronger gait? And that's, yeah, you can talk about that. Like do you like to highlight the best ones at the beginning or do you like to put them at the
Yes,
end or a little bit of both is kind of what I try.
both. If you've
Yeah.
got, let's say you have a great lengthening,
Yeah.
do it at the beginning and then knock them dead doing it at the end too.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Mhm.
Um, but the best choreography scores come from clear patterns that include all the required elements or movements in a way that's easy for the judge to follow. So that's
Mhm.
what we can talk about next is thinking about your judge.
Yeah.
So those judges have a crazy hard job to do, right? So they're looking at you technically and artistically,
Mhm.
and it's super challenging. So that's why I say don't do too many repeats because it's just one more thing they have to judge. Um, they have to make sure you're doing all of the required elements or the required movements. They have to verify you're doing it, the right length or geometry. They have to note errors that require deductions and determine degree of difficulty. So, um, they have to use, and they also have to see, they also have to see how well you're using the arena. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying dumb it down. I'm just saying be clear.
Yeah.
Um, so clear, logical, predictive, sequential choreography, um, is so important. And, we all want to be creative and be unique, but this is not about being unique. This is about beauty. It's about showing how your horse can do these movements in a really nice, flowing way. So we don't have to reinvent anything. Um, yeah, so a lot of people think, oh, choreography, it's so creative. Well, within parameters, right? We're working in within the rules. And so, you just can't get out there and just do your thing, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and so, which helps us, right? It helps us figure out what it is we're supposed to be doing, but it also helps the judges.
Yeah. And also a
Um,
comment too on for the judges is like a lot of times people think that they need to fill up the time limit and you really don't. If you're able to get all your required movements with a nice flow and you're like, 4.5 minutes and
Perfect.
that's from your halt to your halt, then sometimes that's nice because man, they're always like scrambling at the end to get all their comments for the next rider. So if you're a little bit
Right.
short and sweet, that's fine. But then what are your thoughts on when you're creating choreography and you're going over the time limit? Because certain horses are sometimes a little tricky. Like for example, my older horse is a higher level horse, so his canter is very collected. And one of my students is riding him in a basic Western dressage freestyle. And his canter to do a 20-meter circle takes kind of a long time because he's like doing a nice collected canter instead of like a basic canter. And we had the hardest time fitting all the movements in. Like she literally canters before V, does a 20-meter, and trots right after V because we couldn't figure out how to get the movements in. So I don't know if you've had any experiences with that
I
before.
totally have. I just did choreography for a pony. And
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
20
right.
meter, come on,
Yeah,
we did Charlie Brown. It
yeah.
was great.
Mhm.
But so that's when you're gonna use your short diagonals, get to the movement, but do not go over. That is
Oh,
not,
right.
you're
Mhm.
gonna get penalized. I don't know what the penalty is. It's not death, but it's not
I
good.
wonder,
So
I
don't go over your 5 minutes.
yeah, I'm off the top of my head. I mean, I don't think you get eliminated, but there's got to be a penalty. Does it
Yeah,
say on
they add point.
the test that you had a test sheet handy? Want to just peek at it real quick and see what it's
It
there's like
doesn't
a
say
yeah, there's
anything.
like a deduction after over the time limit. But
You know what? I don't know what it is. My computer printer cut that bit off, but
okay,
just
that's
don't go
fine.
over 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And
of course. Yeah.
just Yeah, like just condense it and make your circles. Maybe you would do not like a figure eight,
Mhm.
not don't go the long way because you're taking up time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's the hard part is like not wasting time, but you've also got to give yourself spaces where you can adjust and get back on track, especially for people who it's their first time. I find if they get a little off course and the movements are too close together, they're like, ah,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that is really important to think about when you're making the choreography, the time it takes for you to transition, and also direction of bend. Like you
Mhm.
don't want to do short right, short left, because you're going to throw your horse off balance and not good.
Yeah,
So, you want to think about, the flow. So, um, yeah,
yeah.
don't suddenly zig and zag because you need to think about the time it takes and also transitioning from, you know, uh, canter to trot, trot to walk. It's going to take you a little bit of time. So
Right,
don't forget that, and suddenly you're doing something else.
right.
Um, the other thing is we've kind of been hitting at this is to know the rules. And the rules are on the USDF website, and just make sure that you know them. And if you don't, um, yeah, you need to know them. But if you don't, ask somebody who knows.
And
Um,
we didn't know. No, I was kidding. I don't
yeah,
usually
I mean,
have that problem because usually when you enter the show, you know your music is under the time limit, so it's not really a big deal. But a lot of people don't know that it doesn't include your entrance. So like say your entrance is 20 to 30, 40,
25 seconds. Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
so when you look at the total time, your total freestyle could be 5 minutes and 20 seconds. And that 20 seconds is your entrance. So it's fine. You're
Right.
just halt to halt how long your music is. That's what has to stay under 5 minutes. For those of you,
And then one sometimes like you can canter in at third level, I believe. Is that correct? I think it is.
I
But
think
you
so.
can't canter in at second level, so you don't
Right.
want to do that.
But
So,
you can walk in, like that is an
you can
option.
walk in.
Not,
Yeah,
and that's fine. And I also have done like transitions, like say the music builds, so you could start at
yeah.
the walk, transition to the trot, and then come in. And some people do some passage or flying changes if they want to, but you don't have to do anything super fancy on the entrance. It's more about setting the tone and make sure
Setting
it's
your tone,
good
right.
for your horse and setting your horse up for the halt. So like the higher levels, if your horse does a square halt better from the canter, you want to enter the canter. If it's better from the trot, even though it's a lower degree of difficulty, because you do get judged on your halts. So that
Yes.
then you
You get
have,
judged on your health.
yep.
So you want that first impression, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so I have some choreography don't.
Okay, go for it.
Um, okay. So the term freestyle, you
Mhm.
know, it implies spontaneity, freedom, inspiration. But a, a great freestyle is actually very carefully orchestrated.
Mhm.
It's not a free for all. It's not, get in touch with your feelings or whatever. Um, so I think part of it, like the fun factor, there's I want to do freestyle. It's going to be fun, but it can't be slapped together, set to your favorite song and ridden for a good time. Like
Right.
winging it doesn't work. So, I'm just telling you guys out there, um, so like we said, you can't, it does allow creative freedom, but within the restrictions. Um, and then, some common pitfalls.
Mhm.
Uh, we talked about already, don't exceed the limit, um, including excessive non-judge movements, I mean elements.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not crazy about a lot of circles. How about you, Sandra? I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
they're
like only if they're required. Although I've seen some. as long as you can stay under the time limit. Like I had a client the other day who had created her own choreography and did really kind of a cool like counter canter and then 10-meter circle out on the correct lead and then back to the counter canter on like a 20-meter. And I was like, it was very pretty. It wasn't required the
Yeah,
10-meter, but
yeah.
it enhanced the degree of difficulty of the counter canter. So like that's nice, but it's going to eat up your time and sometimes
It's
you're
gonna eat up your time. And I find 10-meter circles to be kind of dizzying. You're like, oh, where's she going? Wow. Um, we talked already about throwing off the horse off balance. Be careful about that. Don't start with a weak introduction. You want, hello, people, I
Yeah.
am here.
Hmm.
And then, the judges get excited. They're like, ooh, what are we gonna see? What's happening?
Yeah.
Um, and on the same note, don't fizzle out. No fading,
Hmm.
meh, and you
Right,
end.
right, right, right.
Um, you want to leave them with something, right? Um, we talked about, unscored movements. Don't waste your time on those. You don't need to, and um, you want to be strategic. Um, don't borrow choreography from somebody else because it's not gonna, it's not, it's not thoughtful for your horse. Like, what is your horse better? I mean, um, you can get ideas, but don't just take somebody else's choreography, music, and everything and ride to that. I just don't,
Right, right.
just
Yeah.
you're kind of missing the point too. It's fun because it's you and your horse. And you're
Yeah.
dancing. It's
Mhm.
not you borrowing somebody else's song and doing it.
Right, right.
Um, don't use repetitive patterns, too repetitive. We talked about mirroring, but don't be too repetitive. Um, don't overcrowd your choreography with fun little turns and twists everywhere. Remember, graceful patterns flow. Um, don't, make it aimless. We talked about that, you just wandering around. You don't want that. Um, on the other hand, you don't want to create a freestyle that's too test-like.
Right.
So, um, you have to qualify to ride a freestyle, and it depends on the level what the qualifying score is. But you have to ride the third test at a level and get a qualifying score. And the reason for that is that the judges are expecting that you're accomplished and that you can do these things with ease. So think about, what can I do, that's not hard. It's not, you can go like a quarter line to the other quarter line. You don't have to do anything like rail to rail
Right.
in your lateral work, for example. So do things that are really within your ability. No one likes to see somebody struggle,
Yeah.
with their
Right.
music and then they're struggling to do the movements. That's just hard. It's hard for the rider and it's hard to watch, right?
Yeah. And that goes back to your same point about not making something too complicated because
Right.
if things go wrong, you try this
Hmm.
really difficult simple change going to the count from counter canter to counter canter and then
You're
to
like, yikes.
medium canter and then like it doesn't work. Oh my gosh, you've messed up three things, right? Or
Yeah.
or it
Yeah.
it trickles over because you didn't kind of think ahead to like what your horse may botch up at a show randomly,
Right.
or
Right.
they get really tense. If they tend to
Yeah.
go faster at a show, try to give yourself a little wiggle room to half halt and bring them back, or more transitions, things like that. Like you have to,
For
sometimes you may
sure.
not know how your horse is at a show, but that's what you'll get to know for sure after you.
Yeah. A lot of people slow down in the corners
Mhm.
and they don't factor that in. So don't slow down in your corners. Keep
Yeah.
going. And the music will help you, right? Because you got the tempo going. But
Mhm.
if you slow down in the corners, then you're going to get behind your music.
Mhm.
Let's see. Uh, we talked about make sure you've got the number of meters that are required, and I would recommend going over that, except for in the walk. You don't want to walk forever.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's see, what else do I have? Uh, don't forget who you're riding for, the judges.
Yeah.
So, you're having a good time out there, no doubt, but it's really, you're judging to get scored. So think about the judges. Um,
Yeah, and that's where it gets a little tricky with the music too, because I sometimes, I've picked music that I really think a judge is gonna like, and then they don't really respond to it, and you're like, oh, well, okay, well, and then you want to ride to something that you really love, but
right. You need to.
if it doesn't resonate with the judges as far as like consistently getting the scores that you need, then okay, let's go back to the drawing board and kind of play and tweak it a little bit and find something that maybe is a little bit more suitable. But sometimes you can really pick songs that you love it, but when you ride to it in a freestyle it doesn't maybe come off the same way. But that's where I love doing exhibition freestyles, because then you can do whatever you want, add a costume
Right.
and
Do what
whatever.
you want. Everybody loves
so,
it.
so
Yeah.
save those songs for that.
Right. Right. Yes. Remember who you're writing for.
Right.
And then don't miss a movement. Like make sure if it's required that you do it in both directions.
Yeah. I've had
So
a lot of heard from a lot of people that they'll ride through their routine, and this is where maybe if you're mirror imaging, like say shoulder and half pass, and then you come
yeah,
around shoulder, make it like very clear in your mind so that you don't, because some people will actually like, if they have to change the bend, like say you come up the center line and your degree of difficulty is to change the bend and then leg yield, you might
yeah.
forget and leg yield the wrong direction, and then
Right,
I've
right.
had people do that, leg yield the same direction twice, and they didn't know, and then they're kind
Yeah,
of lost, or they missed
right.
all their stuff on one side, or sometimes. So make sure, like if you have a tendency to maybe you have a little moment, right, when you're riding, maybe forgetful or
You're
whatever,
like, oops, yeah. How
set
you can
yourself up.
recover.
Set yourself up on the correct bed and make sure
Right, right,
that you're going to get it
right.
correct. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think that, like I said, the fun because of the fun factor, people underestimate how specific it is, right? You're riding, especially to music. But for me, the music carries you. And
Mhm.
it's got to be music you love because you're
Mhm.
going to hear it a million times. And
Yeah.
it's got to like I always like it to tell a story of some kind. Like I did Earth, Wind, and Fire last year. Well, I went through the disco period and I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire. So I thought, oh, this is going to be great. It's part of my history. So if you can connect it to something,
Mhm.
I think it just makes it more fun.
Mm.
Um, I was going to talk about how to get started. So
Right.
I'm hoping that we're not scaring people with all this talk. So maybe we can break it out a little bit about what you need to do.
Yeah, and also I've had plenty of comments and questions or so far, but I haven't seen anything in the past few minutes. So if somebody wants to just say hi, just so I make sure, because I'm on a different dashboard. So
Okay.
just kind of like if someone can just comment so I make sure it's like actually working okay. But I think we're fine. I think people are just listening, and if they have any questions, they'll pop them in there. So, but yeah, it'd be great to like talk about how you get
Okay,
started.
how to get started. Absolutely. Okay, so phase
Mhm.
one is research and inspiration. So I would say you're going to, this is not a very good copy because I reused some paper, but you want to go to the USDF website and you get the judges score sheet. And it tells you, right? Let's see, this one has 13 things you have to do. So this is going to be your checklist. See, it's not hard. You just got to put this stuff, well, where I you can't see it. Can you see it?
Put it in front of
No.
your face.
Ah, there it is.
There you
Okay.
go.
Wait.
There you
Okay.
go. There you go.
So there are the movements that you have to ride. Okay. And it's your checklist.
Yeah.
So you just go through here and check them off. Um, So everything you need to know, you can read it on on the USDF website. Um, the next thing, I would watch other people's freestyle for inspo, right? Um, consider how they use when you're watching them though, go to YouTube and do not watch Grand Prix unless you're riding Grand Prix. If you're gonna ride a first level test, watch the other first level riders because you're not gonna be riding a pre no, well, nobody is a fourth level. You're writing first level. So watch them. And as you're watching them, look about how they're using the arena, how they're combining their movements and incorporating elements. And think to yourself, what do you like?
Mhm.
Um, Now for the purpose of reviewing people's rides is to learn, don't copy. That's considered bad form. Um, but you can take their ideas for sure. Um,
I have a little
uh,
comment about when you're so on my YouTube channel, I've saved a lot of it's kind of sometimes hard to find certain levels, but I've saved different levels and different
okay,
playlists.
cool.
So if someone goes to my YouTube, I can put a link later. But
Oh,
when
great.
you're looking at the videos, like make sure you're looking at recent years because sometimes the rules have changed a little bit. Like for example, the medium trot has to be on a straight line for your technical. You can do a curved line, but some of the older videos, people will do things like that, and that you don't
Yeah,
want to get confused. But you can still get really good ideas. Just keep in mind that if it's a past old video, sometimes the requirements can be a little
a
different.
little bit changed, but you've got your list, so you can't go wrong.
Right.
And just think about and consider the music, of course, but really focus on the choreography and how they're using their lines and what are they doing that's just a little clever, not wildly creative, a little clever. Um, then also attend the USDF continuing education program for judging the artistic marks of freestyles. Now that's offered through your local GMOs, your local dressage clubs. You can those are offered, and I would highly recommend taking that. I have not been able to take it yet, but Dolly Hannon says it's great. It's a 1 day training. It is a classroom. It's in the classroom, not on horses, but they do show videos and explain things. So, if you don't have that available right now, you might request that of your local dressage club to see if they
Yeah.
could host it.
Right.
Um, and then ask your trainer, your teachers, other freestyle competitors for tips and what they did and what they liked and what worked well for them. So
Mhm.
that would be your first step. The second
Yeah.
step, phase two,
Mhm.
create your design. So the first thing I would do is get on my horse or a horse, whatever, and look at these and play with them. Look for natural combinations, what feels good on your horse, um, and let the choreography develop a little bit organically. I mean, you have to stick to this, but for third level, let's see, shoulder in right, shoulder in left, half pass right, half pass left. What can I do? What would be good for me? Some people half pass first, then do shoulder in. Some people like the flow. I like the flow of shoulder in to half pass because you're already on the bend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's the flow, right? Um, draw out your choreography, start drawing it out, and you have under your freestyle freebies
Yeah.
the
The little
sheets.
pages. Yeah.
Do you
Those.
have a sheet you can show how because some people that have never seen the grid that you
Yeah.
can use?
I have them here. So
Yes.
if it'll
Oh
show
wait, you're too
it.
close. Come back, come back.
There we go.
Yes.
So what I did is it's hard to see, but I did faint little lines for quarter line and center line.
Oh, so
And
good.
then also a color code. So like because I like to highlight the colors as I'm doing, then I make like dots and lines and things for different things. But I also on my new one, I tried to make it so that like it's actually if you take a quarter, it's a 20-meter circle. So there's three quarters because I can't draw a 20-meter circle. So
You
it
know
works
what I got?
okay,
I
but
got a sheet of circles for like $2 on Amazon, and they're all just different size circles so that you can use it on that sheet really
a
nicely
good idea.
and
Yeah,
make
yeah,
it pretty.
yeah. I'll put
Um,
the freebies in the comments and a link to YouTube. And I'm just making a little list. And then I'll put a
and then
link
you can
to your
just play
website.
around with it. You have one that's written, let me see if I have one. And then you just but drawing away and looking at it and seeing if it makes, here's one. Uh,
Yeah, I know.
do you have one that's done? That's
Yeah.
been, like a test?
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. Here's my other one. Uh, okay,
Yeah.
so here's my, ooh, where is it?
Ooh,
Can
there
you,
we
oh
go.
yeah, you got it. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect,
so
perfect,
like
perfect.
I use like long lines for extensions and then like
Uh-huh.
X's for transitions or flying changes, squares for halt because you want a square halt, and then I make comments and
But
stuff
see what
like
you did over there on the fourth one over, you've got F to
yeah,
C. I love
yeah,
that. That's so
yeah,
pretty. And then
yeah,
you're coming around, but if people can see the flow,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, this is a first level freestyle that she's doing right now. So then we put the canter work first because her horse does better at the canter first. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. And I know it
right.
keeps
And
blurring
then
out.
when you write out your choreography, and you don't have to have a fancy sheet, but why wouldn't you get it from Sandra's freebies?
Right. Yeah, you can print
Anyway,
it anything you want.
but anyway, when you draw it out, you can see, okay, I'm balanced, the arena, it's balanced, there's a logical flow, and it'll show any overused or neglected areas. So you'll see that. So that's number two. So you're working on creating, and nothing is set in stone. You can change it. But don't start editing your music until you're sure what you're doing, because it's so hard to edit music. Okay, phase three, testing and refinement. So work without your music first on the technical elements. You want to ride it to see how it feels, and that your horse can do it easily. Think about that. It needs to not be too challenging. What looked good on paper might not really look good or feel right, to your horse. I would use your lesson time to work on a pattern. That's what I do for sure. Have someone film your practice sessions from C to see what it looks like.
Mhm.
Remember, if you go to regionals or nationals, there's going to be more than one judge. But
Yeah.
here it's from C. So you just want to keep refining it until it feels really good. Um, then when you have it set up how you like it, then you can start working on your music.
Yeah.
Um, and then when you go to your show for the first time, um, take the judge's comment to heart and adjust. Like you were saying earlier, I think it was before we went on live, what the judge has to say, take it to heart and do something about it, So don't be afraid to make changes. It's not set in cement. You can tweak your choreography when you hear back from the judges and develop new ideas to make it even better. You want
I,
to track your
I
what?
I do recommend though, ride it for more than one judge before you completely change everything. Because some
Yeah,
judges
yeah, for
might like
sure.
it and not say anything, and someone else might say something random. I mean, of course, you want to keep that in your mind, but if it requires a really huge revamp or something like that, like maybe just get like a
Yeah,
feedback
no,
judges
yeah,
first.
yeah, yeah. Not a huge rebound. Don't freak
Yeah,
out. And
yeah,
also, freestyles, the judging can vary wildly. I've had up to a 10-point
me
spread between,
too.
I've ridden at regionals and gotten a 10 points difference in judging. So don't get upset. It's artistic. Remember, people have different thoughts. I
Yeah.
think, did somebody raise their hand?
It might
Oh,
have been me.
it was you.
When I put my hand up, it recognized me. I had a Jana ask the question, is it important to figure out the BPM for each gait of your horse and how do we do that? And we're kind of we're focusing on choreography today and we're kind of at the end. So I was thinking what I can do is I have have my course video on BPM and
Yeah,
I have a free preview of it on my thing. So I think I can just put the YouTube link there. So that'll show you the three different ways you can get your BPM.
right.
But that's
But
very
yeah,
important for the music. Like if we were talking specifically about music, picking your music, that's a very important element. So yeah, I'll include a video for that so that you can figure that.
awesome, awesome. Um, and then note specific judge comments and how you address them.
Mhm.
So, you know, um, whatever they have to say, try because it's not free feedback because you paid a lot of money to be in the ring, but
Right.
you go there to learn and improve. So you don't, it's not a static thing set in stone, is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
And also as as you go through the season and you get a
Mhm.
little better, you might want to throw in something, go increase your level of difficulty a little bit.
Yeah.
For example, for me, when I was doing a third level freestyle, I just did one change across the diagonal in each direction. But then when I became, a little bigger and bolder, I did three changes.
Mhm.
You just have to make sure you follow the rules. I think it's 5 or 6 strides between each change.
Right. So it's
But
not a empty. Yeah.
yeah, so you can up your level of difficulty and show off some more.
Mhm.
Um, So that's really what I have to say, except for don't be afraid. I mean, it's not hard. It's not what is it, brain surgery? It's not neuroscience. You got
Yeah.
your elements, I mean your movements that you need to do, connect them with your elements. And you're not allowed to be that creative. So don't think you have to be some artistic flower child to do this. You can do it.
Yeah.
If I can do it, you can do it.
I love it. I know, and that's why I help people too. I'm like, I'm not an Olympic freestyle designer either. I'm just like, trying my best and helping people get down the center line. So, it doesn't have to be perfect. And there's a lot of freestyles out there that are not perfect. So, it's all a work in progress and it's fun
And
and
it's yeah,
good.
and it's how you ride it too. And the best freestyles are the ones that people ride. They know it inside out
Mhm.
and they're super confident and it shows. And that is when, it's beautiful, right? If you watch riders that are not real sure, they're nervous, you can kind of tell, and it takes away from the artistry. So the more you know your choreography, and the better you can ride it, and the better you can shine.
Yeah, for sure. Now I was going to ask you, because you run the Dressage Amateurs Rise page, right? Is that what you do?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
is that a free Facebook group?
yeah. It's just a page,
A
and
page.
I just, try. I just try to help people stay motivated, including myself. It's therapy, right?
Yeah. So I
For
think,
me and for other people.
yep.
I
I'll
just
I'll
enjoy.
share that in the comments so people can follow you there. And you also are, which I think we'll do a separate call on, is she's a goals coach, basically dressage goals, how to set
Right,
your goals for dressage. And I think we'll do a call specifically about setting goals for freestyle and like how
that would
to
be great.
like just all the good fun goal setting. And so I'll share your website and so she does that too. So like the coaching
Fantastic. Yeah.
freestyle. So just giving everyone I think that would be
And I'm
really
also,
yeah.
yeah, and I know Sandra's doing this, but I am also more than willing to share what I know with other people who want to design freestyles. I think so I do coach people on the elements and how to put them together. And I'm happy to share, anything. I'm an open book, whatever I know, I'm happy to pass on. I think together we're better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that fun if you just kind of keep it to yourself. And
Yeah.
I would love to see more freestyles. And
Yeah.
one other thing about freestyles is if you like competing, it gives you something else to do.
Mhm.
And I don't think a lot of people think about, let's say you want to go to regionals and you're like, okay, I'm doing first level, I hope I get there. Well, if you are doing first level and a freestyle, you have double the opportunity to get to regionals. And then um if you then you have double opportunity to go to nationals as well. And
Mhm.
so not only is it really fun, it expands your ability to compete at the regionals and nationals.
Yeah. And sometimes the classes are smaller and you can do better.
Oh,
But
no doubt, no
it's
doubt.
kind of
And
annoying though. Some of the classes down here, they'll put all the riders together like first level through fourth level
Yeah,
freestyles in one class. Usually they separate like the ribbons between open and amateurs, but it's a little like I think that's a little unfair. And I wish they did it by level because put all the
yeah.
first level freestyles together, then the second level. But usually there's not enough freestyles, so they just kind of jam them all into the same class.
So
So
y'all got to get in there
I
and get some
know.
freestyles going on. Yeah, at regionals, I believe you're judged at the level.
Mhm.
So you will be, if you're riding third level, you're with the third level riders and also at nationals. And
Yeah.
so, you just have more opportunity. And, I think, you need to seize the day, get out there. You only live once. Freestyles are where it's at.
Yeah. And I think like it's so amazing for memories. I always talk about this like with my horses, like the most memorable times I've ever had was when I was either performing or doing a freestyle. And you might not have your horse, you never know what's going to happen to your horse, right? And so if
Yeah.
you're going to
Don't
sit
put it off.
yeah, don't put it off because you never know where you're going to be next year. And it takes a couple months sometimes to put together a freestyle, so you kind of have to plan ahead or get help, but doing it is going to be something you'll always remember and it's a challenge, but it's fun and like you can create those like moments that'll be much more memorable than just riding a dressage test. So,
And for whatever reason, it's a good thing. It kills for me, my anxiety goes down. And plus, as you put together your choreography, the music, as the music will change and tell you where you're going next.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can sort of focus on just being one with your horse, which is all about, and let the music take you where it's going to go. And yeah, it's just the best time ever. And I think it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
So I hope more people will do it.
Mhm.
And you can do it. Sandra and I are here to tell you, you can do it.
You
It's
can.
not that, it's not that hard.
I love it. I love it. Well, that was great. I'm so happy to finally meet you
Yeah,
on
for
Zoom.
sure.
And we will definitely do another talk with the goals and we can do other talks in the future and I'll share all your stuff and if you guys have more questions that you think of, you can post them in the comments after. The video will still be there and Sally is tagged in it. I'm tagged in it. We'll see it. We'll answer your questions. You can message us directly. You can
For
Sally's in
sure.
the group.
Yeah.
You can send her a message. And don't feel free to don't hesitate to
Yeah,
ask.
if you're ready for more,
Mhm.
let us know.
Yeah.
Sandra, you've got your course
Yeah.
and your book, your
Yeah.
amazing book.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got all sorts of stuff for you. So,
Yes, exactly.
and where do you live again? Is Colorado.
I'm actually in Niwot, just outside of Boulder, Colorado.
So if anybody actually lives up near you, they could get your help personally in
Oh,
person.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be great.
for sure.
Well, thank you. That was so much fun. And I will have the replay video. It will be on YouTube as well. So don't worry if anybody has missed anything, they can go back and watch it. But that was
Thanks,
awesome.
Sandra. Great
Thank
talking
you.
to you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
to everybody
everybody.
who came.
Yes, we had
Bye.
lots of good, fun people. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.